Hi, my name is Moshe Handler, and we're meeting very interesting people. First person we're going to meet in today's program is Steve Katz. His name is actually Shaul. Shaul ben what? Tell me, Steve.
Mother or father?
Shaul ben your mother.
Chana Gittel.
Shaul ben Chana Gittel. Shaul is a very, very interesting person who's gone through an extremely interesting experience, which hopefully none of you will have to ever go through, but you should know. Shaul was in a coma, and it was in a comatose state in the hospital, and his doctors told his parents that he was a complete vegetable, and he would never ever recover. And guess what? While they said that, and while they said that he had no brain function, he was able to hear every single word. Imagine the horror of listening and hearing your doctor say that you are a vegetable and there's not anything to be done except for to disconnect the life support because there's nobody home and there's no point to continuing. Imagine listening to that. So today we're going to hear that story, and we're going to learn some of the great lessons that have to be learned from that story. So, Shaul, I'm going to try to let you tell the story in sequence and how it started, and tell me how it was that you got sick in the first place. Let's start from over there.
Well, at the time, I was much younger. This is going back to the fall of 1983. I was working as a teacher, and I noticed that it was getting a little bit hard for me to breathe. And I noticed that my voice started getting very nasal. Also, it was getting difficult for me to walk. It was like I was carrying weights on my legs. And my eyes started closing for some reason. And one of the things, I was getting a very bitter taste in my mouth. I ignored it because I hate going to doctors. I definitely wasn't going to tell my mother or my father. And I just thought I would get through it and that'll be it. But every day it got a little bit worse, a little bit worse, a little bit worse. One day I woke up and I opened my eyes, but I didn't, because only my right eye opened. My left eye wouldn't open. And I started talking similar to the way I'm talking now, where I'm just was able to talk through my nose, basically, because my tongue stopped to function. And then, within the hour, my chin or my lips stopped to function as well. In fact, I didn't feel anything on my lips. It's like when you go to a dentist and they give you an injection, and you're completely numb. That's how my lips and my jaw was and my tongue. I didn't feel a thing. And it got very hard for me to walk down the stairs. From the bedroom to the living room, I'm a young man, I'm able to dash right down. Well, today it took me quite a few minutes. I called up, I really wasn't feeling well. I called up and said, I'm not coming into school today, okay? And my mother saw something's not right, and I started to tell her. She called up her doctor, who said, get him to the hospital immediately. They brought me to New York University Medical Center, and as soon as they looked at my eyes, they knew something was wrong. Then they gave me a test. I don't recall what the test is, but what they do is they stick needles into different parts of your body, very, very delicate parts of your body, including your eyelids and cheeks and your nose, your lips, your tongue, and they shoot anywhere. At that time, the highest allowed in this country, I believe, was 100 volts. So they would shoot between 50 and 100 volts every time you had a heartbeat, which is real painful, and it's measured. So they know basically what's going on with your nervous system, at least. And the final thing was to put it in the most delicate area of a man's body, and they shot me full of 100 volts. Now, I wasn't able to move anymore at that point because during the course of the day, my body just stopped functioning. I mean, I went into a complete non-movement type of mode. By the hour, it was getting worse and worse. But my whole body lifted off the table at that point. Then they gave me, again, I don't know the name of the instrument, but they give you something to blow in, and you blow into a tube, and on the other end there's a ball. And according to how high up the ball is, that's how good your lung function is. Well, I couldn't even move the ball. They said, something's not right here. They got me into x-ray, and they showed the x-rays to my parents, and my father said to them, where's his lungs? He said, you see those two little pancakes at the bottom of the screen? Those are his lungs. Both my lungs had completely collapsed. They put me on a respirator. They put me on a machine for everything. I mean, one by one, every function I had as a person was done by machine, beginning with breathing and including heartbeat. And things were getting worse and worse, and they couldn't figure out what it was. After a few days, they saw that every test they gave me, and they gave me a number of different tests, I'm not even sure what they gave me. They called in my parents and they said, listen, we can keep him alive, but that's about it. He's never going to open his eyes again. He's never going to talk again. He's never going to walk. He's never going to move. The best you could hope for is in 5 years, we'll be able to have him partially sitting up by machine.
Did you hear them say that?
I heard everything. I heard it all. So they said that the best thing to do, it'll be painless, we'll take him off the respirator, we'll give him a little bit of a painkiller, we'll take him off a life support, he'll go to sleep, and he just won't wake up. It'll take 2 or 3 hours. It'll be completely pain-free.
What did you think when you heard that?
For some reason, I didn't believe that the end was there yet. Something told me it wasn't there. It wasn't my time yet. I knew it wasn't my time yet. And I was confirmed a couple of days later. So my parents being religious Jews, and they're from Europe, and they're both Holocaust survivors. So they're both very, very strong people in the sense that they believe very much in Judaism and very much in the word of a rabbi. So my mother said to this doctor, this expert, that we have to ask permission first. And he said, not a problem. And they called up a friend of mine who drove in from Brooklyn to Manhattan, and they went to see the present Square Rebbe. And you can imagine what was going on in my parents' minds. I'm the youngest child and I'm the only son. My parents have 3 children. So you can imagine what was going on through their minds. When the Rebbe saw my name, he laughed. And he said, tell the doctors, in 30 days he's going to walk, in 60 days he's going to talk, and in 90 days he's going to swallow. All of which were completely impossible. Completely impossible. For some reason, I don't know if it's the law, I don't know what, maybe they were trying to make a point, they agreed to the 30 days. Now, it wasn't 1 or 2 doctors who said, take him off of life support. It was 13 specialists, all in their own fields. So the lung specialist, who was one of the top guys at NYU, no improvement's going to happen here. The neurologist, who was Muhammad Ali's neurologist, said he has no sense of anything. He has no pain. He has no reflex. He has nothing. He's the one who originally said he's a vegetable. He's never going to be anything but a vegetable. Once a nerve is destroyed, it doesn't come back anymore. But they agreed. We'll wait the 30 days. If he can't walk on the 30th day, we unplug him. And my parents had to agree to it. And then started a struggle. Who was right? Science or God or religion?
Well, before we go further on this, I need to ask you, what did you think when you heard this? You heard this and you were aware,
now,
but you couldn't move.
I remember this, right. Now, one thing I didn't mention before was this happened, I believe, on a Wednesday. Friday, things were getting much, much worse. And they called in the Rav from from NYU, to say with me Vidui, which is the prayer you say right before you leave this world. Now, although I was paralyzed, I was able to move these 2 fingers, just these 2 fingers. And I said no. I kept on saying no. And I knew for myself that it just wasn't my time yet. It's not going to happen. I knew it wasn't going to happen. So
you were able to still motion with your fingers?
Just 2 fingers, and I was saying no, no, no. I was waving back and forth, no, no, no. And he was shocked. I said no. And
he was shocked because he didn't even know you could move. You're supposed to be a vegetable.
Not only that, but when a rabbi comes in with a long beard and everything, and he's giving you vidui, and you're saying no, what am I doing here? And my mother said, well, the Square Rebbe said that in 30 days he's going to walk.
Why did you say no, by the way? What made you say no?
Two things. One, the Square Rebbe said I was going to walk in 30 days.
And
so what was the
you had
problem?
heard that from your mother.
I heard that from my mother. So what's the problem?
Right.
And two, something inside me said they're wrong. If I can stay breathing, I'll be okay. If once they unplug me, obviously nothing can happen.
Right.
So I stayed in that state of no movement for about a week and a half. Now, when you have that movement, when you have a respirator in you, it went in through my mouth down to my lungs. So you can only have that for a certain amount of time. Now, why they decided to put a tube in my throat and make a
tracheotomy.
I don't know why to this day, why they decided, because they're convinced I'm going to die anyway. Just in case I live, I should be able to talk, because that tube, it's hard plastic, and knocking against your voice box, it's going to damage it permanently. So who knows? I don't know what they were thinking. On my birthday, on my English birthday, they took me in to be for the surgery, and they gave me this tube that when it was closed, no, at that time it was always open. I had an oxygen mask on top of that and a mist mask on top of that. So, and a lot of people came because they thought that was going to be my last birthday for sure. Sure enough, the next day was Saturday, was the Jewish Sabbath, and it was my Jewish birthday, and it was actually the day of my Bar Mitzvah Pasha also.
What Pasha is that?
Chai Sarah.
Chai Sarah.
I never thought of that. Chai Sarah, life of Sarah. Okay. So
good.
What happened was, the paralysis had gone from organ to organ to organ. Well, on that day, it went to my heart, and my heart stopped. And something really interesting happened when my heart stopped.
Yeah, tell us. That's a very important. What happens when a person's heart stops?
Well, I don't know how to explain this, because what I'm explaining to you, what I'm discussing with you, is something physical. Well, no, that's not right. It's not physical. You understand physical because we're human beings. This is something that I could use words so that you can understand it, but there's no way to understand it because it doesn't exist on this realm of existence. I went through this, I call it a light only because you understand light, but it wasn't a light in any sense of the word that we understand light. It was like a breathing thing almost. It was something that existed that you just can't understand.
A light that went through you, so to speak.
I'm not sure if it went through me or went through it.
But you could feel it. It was a living light.
Right. It was practically breathing. It was practically pulsating. And no, I had no sense of smell or taste, which to this day is very bad. You know the smell of freshly baked bread and freshly baked cake?
My wife bakes every week. That's it.
Yeah, but I had no sense of smell.
Right.
But I smelled it.
You had no sense of smell before this, but now you smell.
Right. I had no sense of smell at all. And suddenly I'm smelling this unbelievable smell.
Delicious.
It's beyond delicious. You can almost taste it.
Just hana smell. You can't.
Right. Now the taste, as far as the taste is, you could practically taste it, but I had no taste. I couldn't swallow. I had nothing, but I could. And I started being greeted. There was a line of people, none of whom I knew, but I knew who they were. Now they weren't people like I'm sitting in front of you or someone standing in front of you. It was like a light, like almost like a circular light.
Each person was like a circular light.
But I knew which circle was which person.
In other words, you didn't see them physically.
I saw them physically. I saw the light. I didn't see a physical form in the sense that I didn't see someone's face.
Right, like you're looking at me, you didn't see my features. You didn't see my features.
I didn't see features, but I knew
you saw. Right.
But not only that, but I could pick up on things that you would do. For example, I had an aunt who was 5 years old when she was killed by the Nazis. And she had black curly hair. And apparently she used to twirl it between these two fingers like I'm doing for the camera. Just like that. So I thought I was And when I came back, and later on in the story, I thought I had hallucinated the whole thing. And I saw my mother's father who had been killed, and my different relatives. Some I didn't even know their names. I didn't even know they existed. I didn't find out until afterwards that they actually existed.
So you saw people that you never knew, and yet you knew how they were related to you.
Right.
Right.
And it's funny how I found out, actually. I made a trip to Venezuela, where my mother lives now, and she took out an album, a family album, and she pointed out, I'd never seen his pictures, actually, before, because her aunt, who had gotten out of Germany in 1938, had taken all these pictures with her. So I want to show you these pictures. And I recognized these people.
And you had only seen them while you were in your coma.
Right, only.
That's wild, yeah.
And I said, who are they? And I even told my mother, did this person, such and such, this person, such and such, was this person Sephardi, by any chance? She goes, how did you know that? I just knew. I said, and I even said how he davened. I knew there was a specific way, Sephardi way of davening. I said, did he do it in such and such a way? How did you know? I knew. And I knew about different cousins. I knew like minor things, but they told you who they were. But I never knew they existed. I even saw, in a very shady way, not shady, it's a bad way to say it, in an unfocused way, like when you see something that's out of focus, I saw my mother, which made me nervous. And I'll talk about her in a few minutes. And it was a wonderful feeling being with all these people. The only person I did recognize actually was my grandmother, who had died about 7 years before. So, and she was a wonderful woman, and she greeted me so much, and people were so happy to see me. And I had no idea who these people were, but they were very happy to see me.
Did they say something to you? Did they?
In particular, one. My father's brother, as I'm being pulled back, I'm being told to come back. I don't want to. I want to be there already. I'm there already.
You wanted to be where you were, and
there's so much love there.
Right.
It smells so good. It's so comforting. You don't, I can say comfort, but you have no idea what I'm talking about. It's like here in the world, we live in the worst part of the Bowery, or in the 5 Points of 100 years ago. It's a horrible place. That's Earth. Where they are is like you're in the French Riviera or something. I mean, it's such a dichotomy. It's so different. It's hard to explain. You can't even explain the difference. It's such a huge.
Ahava would be a good word. Love.
That's the exact word, but more,
yes.
Because you understand Ahava, but you don't understand. You understand it as a concept, and you may have gotten it from your parents. It's on a different level.
Ahava cubed. You could feel it into a great power.
It's like if you are inside Ahava. It's like you're not only surrounded. Imagine a huge, like a swimming pool of Jell-O, and you're inside the Jell-O. That's what each one of these were like. If it was love, if it was smell or taste or any sensation, you were enveloped in it, totally enveloped in it. I'm being told, but not with words. But I'm being told you have to come back. We're waiting for you. You have to come back. This man comes over to me, a very young man, and he told me who he was. He was my father's oldest brother, whose name happened to be Moshe. And he said that you have to ask your father to forgive me. He was wrong, and I had no idea what he was talking about. But he told me the story. The story was that in the late 1930s, my father and his brothers loved to play soccer. They lived in Lithuania, and the sport there was soccer. And they were played every chance they got. And my father lost his soccer ball, and he blamed his brother on it. He said that you had taken it or he hit it. I don't remember the exact words at this moment. Because no, he had put in this huge chest that we had in the attic. He forgot about it, and he blamed me.
In other words, your father accused him of stealing his soccer ball.
And he had forgotten he had actually placed it. Right.
And your father forgot that he had.
Apparently, it was probably during cleaning for Passover or something to that effect. So things had moved around, and you worked till late at night. So it was probably something like that.
Right.
But it was a silly thing. Apparently, this uncle who died right after liberation, he was liberated. And the Americans that liberated him, they didn't know what to do for the prisoners because you saw walking skeletons. So any food they had on them, they gave. And some people, my father and his family, who was still alive, they hadn't had a solid meal in 4 years. So they couldn't take food. So people would have a little bit too much food, and they would die from overeating.
The body couldn't handle the food.
A soldier gave my uncle some Swiss chocolate, and that killed him in a few minutes. How old was he? He was 25. 25 or 26.
You saw him as about a 25-year-old person?
Right. But I knew how old he was when he died.
Right.
So at that point...
but you never saw him during your lifetime.
I never even saw a picture of him.
You only realized who he was once you saw him while you were on that world.
Right.
Obviously, you were on that world all the time.
I saw her also twirling her hair. I saw how dark it was, how pitch black it was, and I saw how curly it was. Somewhat similar, not so much, but somewhat along the lines of a Shirley Temple, but in black. But not so extreme curled. And again, there were no pictures of her, so there's no way of me knowing her. My father never talked much about his family that was killed. This particular aunt was killed on Purim. The Nazis had made a law that made two things illegal: pregnant women who were Jewish were illegal, and children under the age of 12 became illegal. Which means what? If you're illegal, you're dead. It was capital punishment.
Illegal means exterminated.
Exterminated, right. So you couldn't exist. If you were pregnant, the pregnancy wasn't terminated. The woman was terminated.
With the baby.
With the baby. And they took this particular aunt, and this aunt and 1,200 like her, and they machine gunned them all on Purim. I believe it was 1942.
Wow.
So,
Hitler.
So, well, more things happened that day. It wasn't a good day. So anyway, I came back, and when I came back, I actually opened one eye that much, just a drop. And I saw my very best friend in the world standing over my body. He thought I was dead because I had flatlined.
Right.
So he thought I was dead. And his younger sister, who was 6 years old when I know her, with all these years, let's go back to 1983, all these years we're like family. The best friends you could ever imagine. And they thought I was dead, and I'm opening up an eye, partially, and I'm tapping my fingers, getting their attention, and they were like they couldn't believe what they were seeing. And the beep started going on from the heart monitor, and doctors who were ready to pull the sheet over me, they were actually starting to pull the sheet over me, and it stopped. So I didn't believe anything that had just happened, because it didn't make any sense to me. I thought from the drugs and from all the things that were going around me, I must be hallucinating. So I didn't bother mentioning it to anybody then or for a while after that. Any questions up until now?
No, I'm okay. In other words, they actually saw you move at that point? They actually...
I was just moving the two fingers.
Just the two fingers, but they actually considered that you were dead already.
Because I had flatlined.
And because you flatlined, and they were shocked that you came back from the flatlining.
For almost 2 minutes. They didn't bother giving me, they go when a person's heart stopped, they put that defibrillator.
Oh, the paddles, the defibrillator,
yes. And they didn't bother doing that with me.
They figured they'd let you die.
Right.
But you by yourself came back.
Yeah. And now, I was surprised. I remember that beep, beep, and it was shocked me and it shocked everybody.
Now, your heart stopped for 2 minutes, which is supposed to be impossible. It's supposed to be permanent brain damage.
A little bit less than 2 minutes.
But how long did it seem to you that you were on the other world? Did that match up to 2 minutes, or did it seem a lot longer?
Much longer. It seemed like the better part of a day.
For most of it, to you, in your time, it was... See, it's interesting, because it's Svarim right that in Shemayim, time is different than here. And
you have to understand, I saw a whole room of people, a large room of people. I saw many, many people.
Right.
And I had to have something with each and every one of them. And something funny, before I forget. I was told things that were going to happen in advance. So I should know. I don't know why, but I should know they were going to happen. And when I came back, I forgot it completely. As they happen, all these years, as they happen, I remember.
You remember that you were told about it
Right.
before.
Why I'm not told about it, reminded 5 minutes before, I don't know.
Was this interview in there, or you don't remember that?
In the previous one?
Yeah.
No.
Did they? No. Okay. Well,
This is something that... Now, why did I say, let me bring my mother later? Is it turns out, as I'm going through this, my mother was having a heart attack. She couldn't take the strain. She had a heart attack.
While your heart stopped,
yeah,
your mother had a heart attack as well. Wow.
So that's why I
It's
saw
interesting
her
because
fade
you
in,
saw
fade
her
out.
fuzzy. You saw her
Right.
fade in, fade
And
out.
I found out.
It's interesting.
And she didn't come for like a week or 10 days. She didn't come to visit me. I can't imagine why. I
Right.
thought maybe she couldn't take it.
Right.
So they kept on testing me.
Did she remember
Now what?
that she was fading in and out, or she didn't remember anything at
I
all?
never told her.
You never asked her.
I never told her
Okay.
that she was there. You know,
Right.
you can imagine. I saw you in China. You know, people would freak out from something like that. I can never tell her something like that.
I don't find that spooky, but everyone's
She would.
different.
She would.
Okay.
Anyway, so they were started to test me after a few weeks. So there's one exam. I have no idea what it's called. What they do is they set you up on a table, and they have these X-ray machines going all around you simultaneously, taking photos from every different angle.
Right.
I forgot how many full body X-rays I had, but I think it was 3 or 4 every day.
Right.
No improvement. After 3 weeks, they stood me up, and I went straight down to the floor.
No, they tried to see if you would stand by yourself.
If I had anything, and I went face first, right down to the floor.
Shoot.
There was nothing to do with me. There was nothing to do with me.
And
I'm
you were
communicating.
non-responsive to them all this time? You were non-responsive?
2 fingers.
That's
I was able to write with these 2 fingers too. Only 2 or 3 words a page, but I was able to communicate.
Right.
So
Yet they were still saying you were a vegetable.
I'm still a
Which is
vegetable.
kind of weird.
Which
Yeah.
I never understood to this day.
Right.
Apparently not everyone was informed. Well, I'm not sure. I don't know.
There was one doctor said you were a vegetable, the other one might not have said that.
Now, while I'm doing all this, there were 2 or 3 doctors.
They needed a text message
the
system.
internist, yeah, right.
Yeah.
The internist, the lung specialist, and the nerve specialist kept on nudging my mother. Now I understand why she had a heart attack. Unplug him. It's costing money. It's costing this. Why are you holding on to him? You have to just let go. The pressure, tremendous pressure to let me go. No, the Rebbe said. What are you going to do? The Rebbe said. The Rebbe said. Day 28 is a Shabbos. It's a big day in my life.
You were aware of the days, in other words. You actually knew it was Shabbos.
No, I knew it was Shabbos. I didn't know it was day 28. I didn't know that I had a 30-day plan. Well, I knew 30, but I didn't. You know, I'm in a room, and it's coming into winter, so days are very short. I basically lost track of time, except I knew when it was Shabbos.
Because people told you, or you felt something?
Because the truth is, I had almost no visitors, and the nurses would even say good Shabbos. And I knew my parents slept over on Shabbos.
Right, got it.
And that was it. But otherwise, I would have visitors all day, all night. All till 11 o'clock at night.
So on Shabbos, you had almost no visitors.
So I knew it was Shabbos.
That was one way to tell it was Shabbos. Lonely Shabbos.
It was day 28. And this is a great story, day 28. It's nothing like day 29 and day 30, but day 28 is a big day in my life. The head nerve doctor. What do you call a nerve doctor?
Neurologist.
The head neurologist, Muhammad Ali's neurologist, comes in with his class of students. One of whom I had gone to yeshiva with, actually. He recognized me.
One of the students.
And he was actually the older brother of someone that was in my class.
Oh my God.
And he recognized me immediately. He knew me from the time I was 5 years old. And he had heard, and when he heard the story, he tried telling the doctor, wait a second, there's something to this. Doctor comes in, and he said, now it's a teaching hospital, so they bring their students around to all these different patients. So he says to them, in your career as doctors, you'll be told, you'll meet all kinds of people, all kinds of background, with all kinds of belief.
Right.
Some people believe in crystals or in candles or in spices or in special kind of rocks or in saints or in trees, and you name it, people believe in it. This particular people believe in Hasidic Rebbes, and he went to say what the Square Rebbe said. In 30 days he's going to walk. And it's a big joke. In 30 days he's going to walk? It's not possible he's going to walk. Look at him. He has no movement. He has no movement. So he said, he mentioned to me, now he didn't know for some reason, why he doesn't know, I don't know. But he thought I couldn't hear. Since all my other senses, I mean, every sense was gone, my eyes were shut, no sense of smell, no sense of touch, no sense of taste, nothing. He assumed I couldn't hear either. And I could hear like a bat. I could tell the elevator was about 55 feet from my room. I could tell by the first step of the person who came off of it, I knew exactly who it was. He yelled in my ear, "If you feel anything, tap with your fingers." Okay. He takes out a scalpel and he slices open the bottom of both my feet. Now, a person can feel when they cut open your feet. They can feel it. I didn't feel the thing. They can feel when blood runs down. I didn't feel the thing. He didn't feel that. He said he didn't feel that. He's supposed to walk in 2 days. It's a joke. And he tells the nurse to clean me up. Now, there was somebody that I was very much in love with at the time. And she used to also come by on Shabbos. And she used to come by every day too. And she couldn't take it anymore. And she had said, she waited for the doctors to leave. And she came over to me and she told me, you don't know what's been going on. And she told me everything. She said, "You're never going to walk again. I don't care what the Rebbe said. You're never going to talk again. You're never going to anything ever again. And I don't want to stand around waiting for you to die. Because that's going to happen in 2 days. I don't want to be here for it. So I'm saying goodbye now."
This was the girl who you might have married at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was very upset about that, obviously. And I cried out of one eye. Another very dear friend of mine came in right after that, saw this girl leaving, saw how upset she was, saw me, realized what had happened. She sat down and started talking to me. There was one other girl, actually, who I was very friendly with at the time, who was a Baal Shuva. And she got very much into it. And she heard what the Rebbe said. So what she would do is, I had physical therapy, a little bit of physical therapy, but she would do it the whole time she was with me. She would lift my legs, she would lift my arms, she would move my toes, she would move my fingers, she would massage them, she would...
Try to get you back alive.
Right, anything and everything. With oil, with powder, with alcohol, anything and everything. She would do it for an hour or two every night. And she came in also around this time. Goes, "Really? I'm glad that's what she said." And she took out her powder and her oil and the alcohol. "Let me see, what am I going to use first?" "I don't care. The Rebbe said in 2 days. So why are you crying? What's the problem?"
She saw that you were crying.
Well, it was very obvious.
A tear can't come down from your eyes.
So goes, "What are you worried about? What are you scared about?" I'm not scared, and it's not because it's not me. If I thought nothing was going to help, I wouldn't have come by every day like this, and I want to do it again today. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She has no faith.
So she gave you chizik, and she told you to have emunah in the Rebbe's and in the Rabbeinu Shlalem.
Yeah.
How did you feel when she did that?
I felt better, but this was a girl I wanted to marry, and we were scheduled to get, actually, at the time that my heart stopped, that was the day that we were scheduled to get engaged. It was 2 weeks before we were scheduled to, we were going to make the thing and the fun to get engaged. So I was very upset about that. Next day is day 29. And really, I knew a lot of people, and nobody believed. When they saw me, I had no color on my face. I was as white as could be. My face actually changed. People had thought that I was, for some reason they thought I was righteous, because I became younger. How does a person become younger? So his mitzvahs must be coming out. No, they didn't realize the mist mask had cleaned up my skin. And not that I had bad skin, but it made it extremely smooth. So I turned 23 in the hospital, but I looked like a 12 or a 13-year-old. I had that type of skin. So they thought, wow, he's so close to the other world, and his whole...
Could be because you had a big kapara for the Averis too.
No, it was the maybe, but it was definitely the mist mask. It was the big help.
Okay.
Day 29. No one believes I'm making it. I'm going to walk the next day. And I mean nobody. I'm down to 2 or 3 people believing it.
Right.
So everyone started coming to see me, to say goodbye to me. And for some reason, people still didn't believe that I could hear. So people were saying things to me they would never in a million years say if they knew that I could hear them. And they were admitting things to me.
Telling you all their secrets.
They were telling me their secrets.
Terrible secrets.
The word, yeah. But I'm shocked that they're telling me this, and I'm laughing at the same time. They're telling me this because, on the one hand, they think that I can't hear them. So they have this load on the heart that they're trying to get off, and like I can absolve them of their averas or something, which I can't do. Or maybe, it's a thing that if you're in the... I don't want to think about it. Who knows what they were thinking, but one person after the other. And they were speaking well of me to each other. And I said, this must be what it's like to attend your own funeral. Everyone's giving me such a nice speech. Telling other, not to me, telling each other about me, how wonderful I was. How wonderful I was.
You were the comatose psychiatrist.
Right. No.
They were telling you everything they would tell a psychiatrist.
I'm talking to your son.
Right.
No, they're talking about me.
Right.
They're saying, do you remember Steve when he did this? And you remember Steve when he did that?
Right.
Stephen was...
Oh, God.
I'm at my own funeral.
Right.
I'm attending my own funeral. There were 2 people that came as early as they were allowed to come in. And they didn't leave the whole day. One was this best friend, whose name is Yisrael Setembrino. And another one was someone who's now a PhD. She's a nutritionist. She's a PhD in nutrition, and she's a nutritionist at Brooklyn College. Her name is Dr. Roseanne Schnoll. And neither of them could leave. I have no idea how many people came in. My sister flew in from South America. I have a sister who lives in Venezuela. She flew in to say goodbye to me and to attend my funeral 2 days later. That was the reason she came in. But these 2 friends couldn't leave. About 9 o'clock at night, this friend suddenly, after 12 hours, she gets up and walks out. Excuse me, I'll be right back. She's gone for about 5 minutes and comes back. She speaks to the nurses. They said, like this, okay? It was after visiting hours and was coming to already. Suddenly somebody walks in who I'd never seen before in my life.
You could see him, or you just...
That's a good question. You know what? I have no idea if I could see him.
You were sort of... Okay, you may have been in a different state than you think you are.
Right. But I could definitely hear him.
Right.
And he was a comedian. And what he did comedy was, he imitated Rodney Dangerfield, who was a very famous comedian for decades here in the United States. And he did him perfectly. And he did him so well that actually, internally I was actually vibrating.
From laughing?
From laughing. I couldn't laugh. I showed no emotion. My face actually was frozen, and that one side of my mouth was in a smile, and the other one was a straight line, which was a weird way to look.
But that was a permanent look.
That was a permanent
your face.
look, yeah. It was. I'm sure it wasn't fun to look at either. And he was here for about an hour. Even the nurses came in. I was in the CCU unit, which is the coronary care unit, which is intensive care, but coronary intensive care. And finally, about 11:30, the nurses said, "Okay, enough. You have to leave," and they left. Except for my parents, my sister, and my friend Yisrael. Now, I didn't know my friend Yisrael was there until recently. I didn't know that he had stayed. The next day is the big day. Big day in my life. It's day 30.
Are you going to walk, or are you going to have the plugs pulled?
Right.
Yeah.
My mother couldn't be there. She couldn't watch me go down. My sister was there, my father was there, and I just found out recently this friend Yisrael was there. And one of the things I haven't mentioned until now, I was able to communicate with certain people that I was very close with. And how would I communicate? Because you can write 2 or 3 words, but you're not getting anything across. I'm not sure how this worked. I'm not sure how they understood me. But the people who were closest to me, I was able to concentrate on them, and they understood what I wanted or what I was saying, or what I was thinking.
Right.
And it was a very weird thing.
Huh.
I knew exactly how to do it. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like it's a real concentration, and it just comes out. Anyway, they wheel me out, and I have no muscle movement. My chin is on my chest. I can't lift my head off my chest. They have an oxygen tank strapped to my back, to the back of my chair, and they roll me out. A little bit I was able to see, and I saw that the room was packed. It was the center of the coronary care unit, where the nurses' station is. And it was packed wall to wall with people, including this neurologist who, by the way, I forgot to tell you also, 2 days before, had staked his reputation that I'm never, ever moving, ever again. Finished.
Wow. After doing all his tests.
And the slicing of my feet. He's there too. Everybody's there.
The 13 experts.
Who's there? The 13 experts.
Yeah.
I'm sure students, nurses, people who weren't on shift were there. I was told afterwards.
They wanted to see.
They wanted to witness this.
The big event.
Yeah.
If something was going to happen. Yes.
If they had pay-per-view at the time, I'm sure they would have done that too.
It's a pity. Could have made a lot of money.
Who knew? Anyway, so they roll me out, and two people lift me by my elbows. A very strong nurse, and as it turned out, this friend of mine also lifted me. Why was he there? He was supposed to be at work. Why was he there? Because he couldn't bring himself to say goodbye to me. So until the last second, he wanted to be with me. Whatever it was, he wanted to be with me. At the time, he wasn't religious at all.
Yisrael.
Yeah, at all. So they lifted me up, and this neurologist said, "Okay, look, I have no idea how my sister understood what I was thinking, but I forgot how to walk. It's been such a long time since I had walked. If I had done anything, I just forgot. I'd forgotten how to breathe by myself. I had to relearn at one point how to breathe." So she said, "Put out your right foot." And I put out my right foot firmly on the ground, and I'll never forget. If I could hear from 60 feet away, imagine next to me, it was like Times Square on New Year's Eve. The place went berserk. Berserk.
Cheers.
Happy.
Happy cheers.
They said, "Now put out your left foot." And I put out my left foot, and they didn't know, they couldn't believe what was going on. And then she said, "Now repeat." When I put out my right foot for the second time, the only way to describe it is it's like to say if there was a large straw attached to my belly button, and at the under end going into something, like something blew wind into me, and my whole body became animated simultaneously practically. I was still numb, but I was able to lift my head up, lift my chest up, and like people are flipping out. They have no idea where this is coming from. And I'm trembling a little bit because I'm not steady on my feet yet. They gave me a walker, and I grabbed onto the walker, which I can't grab. I can't hold anything. How am I grabbing? I can't move my fingers. How am I grabbing?
And it was 60 seconds before you couldn't do it. All of a sudden now you can do it.
I couldn't lift my chin off my chest. So I start to walk slowly, like very slowly, and then quicker, and then quicker, and then quicker, and then I pushed away the walker, and the nurses at one point had to tell me to slow down because they had to keep up behind me with the oxygen tank. I looked up and I saw this doctor who had said, "Never moving again," and I saw how purple he was. I guess with rage. I don't know what he was purple about. But he was absolutely upset that I had recovered, and no idea where any of this came from. Needless to say, it wasn't unplugged. So it was a great day. They called my mother's office from the nurse's station, and my mother didn't answer the phone. She was expecting the worst possible news. So she asked someone to answer the phone for her, and they did. And they told her the news, and she's nodding like saying, I understand. Goes, what? And then she said, she mentioned my mother's name is Annie. Annie, he walked. What? He walked. And the whole office that she worked in went berserk also.
They burst into cheers.
And they were congratulating her like if she had just beaten Muhammad Ali at the height of his career. So
she beat Muhammad Ali's doctor.
Right, it's pretty close. Anyway, so that's that part of the story.
Well, what did you feel? Why all of a sudden at that second were you able to walk and you couldn't?
I don't know. I don't know.
Just all of a sudden you felt the strength.
And there's no other way to describe it but someone pumping air like through a straw into me, and just like a balloon. And I'm mobile.
So it literally, what the Square Rebbe said, came out practically to the hour that you needed it.
It gets better.
30 days, and it was 30 days.
It gets better.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't know this meant anything at the time, and for many years afterwards.
By the way, one day I remember hearing this story from you. Mm-hmm. I want you to tell my audience when this was, that it happened.
This happened to have been, I hope you're sitting for this, on the 5th day of Hanukkah. Now, the 5th day of Hanukkah apparently is a very important day in Hanukkah. And actually, a few very important things, life-changing things happened to me on the 5th day of Hanukkah. This was the first of them. And that night, I asked to be, they said, you can't walk like you want to, because they don't understand how I'm walking at all. I should be actually down in the basement of NYU. There was a doctor.
That's where the dead people are.
Right.
Right.
That was the morgue. I didn't want to say I was the morgue.
Yeah, well, tell the radio audience.
There was a doctor who came over, very beautiful and very sweet. I want to be on your team because I had a lot of interns, and they have to get patients to agree that they should be their doctors. And she has such a sweet face, such a wonderful face. Of course she could be on my team. I was looking forward to seeing her on my team. About 2 weeks, actually closer to a month after this happened, I'm getting ready to leave the hospital finally. And she came over to me the night before I left, and she said, what a disappointment I've been to her. So what do you mean? Turns out, you know what her specialty is? She cuts open corpses.
Autopsies.
She does autopsies.
Medical autopsies.
To see what happened internally to a person. And this was such a rare thing that you don't get this too often, so she couldn't wait to get her hands on me.
You cheated her.
I cheated her.
She was angry at you for cheating her.
Yeah, which really ruined it. Would have been a great night. Otherwise, she really ruined it. But it was interesting how people reacted.
You should always cheat people like that. Yeah.
This same doctor, this specialist, the main doctor, wasn't through with me yet. Because he said, okay, he can walk, but he can't talk. He can't talk, Mrs. Katz. He's never going to talk. And he showed her by my test. Let's say a person on a range of 0 to 100, they have to have, let's say, a minimum of 30 to make any kind of sound. Okay? I wasn't 0. I was like -10. I was off the charts.
The wrong way.
The wrong way. And it doesn't grow back. It doesn't get better.
Not under normal circumstances, obviously.
Obviously. The only chance your son is going to have to be able to talk is to put a voice box in, an electronic voice box. Got to go ask the Rebbe. And he was getting upset already at this because ask the Rebbe, oh God.
The Rebbe was getting him in trouble already.
The Rebbe said, absolutely not, under no circumstances. She came back and the Rebbe said, no, under no circumstances. She told me too. Now, any one of 3 people could have signed off on me getting a voice box. My father, my mother, and me. My father felt that if he signs for it, my mother's, now I don't know who out there who's married to a woman, but you're never going to hear the end of it to eternity. You have to be married to understand that, so because there's no way I'm signing on this. My mother wouldn't sign on it either. The doctors were working on me. And they were very, very manipulative because I wanted to talk to people already. At this point, it had been 2 months, just about 2 months that I hadn't even made a sound. So I wanted to talk, I wanted to express myself, I wanted something more, you want to communicate with people. I was ready to agree. He made up the paperwork, he brought it in, and my mother came in, goes, I'd like to see that please, and with a very nice voice, and she ripped it up in his face. And no, it's not going to happen. And she said, under no circumstances, don't come home. I don't want to see you, I don't want to know from you. The Rebbe said no, it's no, finished, done, okay. And I started arguing with her. She would say, try and smile. I couldn't move anything on my face, nothing moved. Try and make a sound, nothing moved. day 60. Day 60 comes around, and I don't know how it happened. I don't remember clearly how it happened, but they had to change the tube in my throat. So when they changed it, I had to be on oxygen. There was nothing to do. When they put in the other tube, it was open. Again, there was nothing. They closed it to see if I could breathe, and suddenly I made a sound. And I said, my father heard me make a sound. It wasn't a word or a letter, it was just a sound. And my father asked me if there's anything I want to say. I said 2 words. And only my father and the audience now have ever known this. I never told any of them. 2 words I said were, Baruch Hashem. And he laughed. And the reason he laughed was because I sounded like Donald Duck. And I would continue to sound like Donald Duck for about 10 weeks afterwards. I had to relearn how to talk. My voice box had to readjust.
But Donald Duck that said 2 words is very important.
It's a big
little deal.
Yeah. But, when people laugh when they hear Donald Duck too. So you don't want people laughing at you for the rest of their life either. But I was very, very happy. Very, very happy. Was there something I missed? Oh, my father... Actually, my father wasn't there the day that I stood up. He also couldn't make it. He couldn't be there. He couldn't physically be there. And I made sure my sister knew not to tell him anything. And my mother not to tell him anything. When he showed up, I had one of the nurses hold him up at the nurses' station. And I came up behind him. And I put my hands over his eyes. He was obviously no mood for jokes. He was actually expecting me when he came there. He was coming to pick up my body.
Your father?
My father. So he doesn't know who's behind him, but he's not in the mood for any jokes. And I hugged him, and he turned around, he saw it was me. I thought he was going to jump out of his skin. He was so, you can't imagine, you should never imagine how, he was beside himself.
Well, it must have been a big simcha for him to see you moving.
You can't imagine.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you something, we're going to continue this interview, but we only have an hour radio show this particular time, so we're going to edit the tape the same way too, but we're going to continue to tell the other stories that you had to say.
Well, let me just finish a little bit.
Okay.
Now there's a third thing. I can't swallow.
Right.
If you put liquid down my throat, it goes right to my lungs. When liquid goes to the lungs, it's a horrible burning sensation. Now, for a long time I was eating through a IV, but they wanted to test me to see if I could take anything else. So they put a tube down up and through my nose into my stomach. And through there they started feeding me. Now I don't know who out there has ever eaten that way, but it's an amazing way to eat. Because you have nerves apparently in the back of your mouth, in the back of your throat, in the back of your nose, I don't know where they are, that you never use. Thank God you don't have to use them. But because of that, when you taste something, it's magnified 10 times. So, apple juice, which by the way, for people to know, when a person has difficulty swallowing, don't give them water, give them apple juice. Water is difficult to swallow. Apple juice has more substance and it's easier going down. They gave me ice cream. Fantastic ice cream. I never enjoyed ice cream like that in my life. They put a turkey leg.
Klein's ice cream.
I didn't say Klein.
I know, I'm just kidding.
They put a turkey leg through a blender and they put that through my tube. Fantastic. For some reason, chicken soup, I couldn't handle. It tasted like pure salt. So I'm not sure. So they knew that.
The American chicken soup is 3/4 of the way chemicals anyway.
Absolutely.
So you probably did taste that.
They realized that if it was more natural, except for ice cream for some reason, and not just any ice cream, I think it was Haagen-Dazs. The thicker it was, the easier it was to go down.
Swallow.
And the more substance it had, the easier it was. If it was something like water, it was very hard to go down. If it was something like orange juice, extremely bitter. If it was soup, it was like swallowing salt. If it was real milk, 100% milk, you could almost taste the cow itself. It had to be no fat or nothing. He's not swallowing. do we have to go through this whole thing again and again? And my mother said, well, try it a few more days. 9 days coming up. I said, okay, we'll try. 98th day, right into my lung. 99th day, came out of my nose. I'm sorry, 89th day, came out of my nose. 90th day, they gave me Italian ices, which is not liquid. You chop it up, it has a lot of substance, but it's not liquid.
Icy.
It's icy.
Snowy kind of consistency.
Right. That went down beautifully, but it was like swallowing liquid sugar. And again, they gave me soup. It was pea soup, a lot of substance. It was like swallowing salt with taste in it, some kind of pea taste in it. It was wonderful. And a few days later, they said, well, okay, it's time to go home. And they sent me home. I had gone into the hospital October 28th, and I came home on the first or second Martin Luther King Day, which was January 13th, 1984. And once I got home, I had to relearn how to do a lot of things. An interesting thing happened also while I was in the hospital. I wasn't eating food, but I was losing a lot of weight. And they were pumping calories into me. Sometimes, I've heard numbers that I find difficult to believe, but I've heard 15, 20, 25,000 calories a day, and I'm losing weight. In 3 months, I lost close to 80 pounds. So, when I'm coming out of the hospital, no, I wasn't skinny I wasn't fat when I went in. I was chubby. So I was down to about 140, 145 when I came out, something like that. But I was really thin. No one had ever seen me that thin. And my mother reminded me about something, which was what? You know, when I was 5 years old, I was very, very skinny. You could count all my ribs. And it happened one day that my mother was walking with me. I'm 5 years old. She was walking with me on our block. And a neighbor came over and smacked her in the face. Said, Annie, if you don't give this child to eat, I'm going to go to child welfare and have him taken away from you. She got very upset. So she took me and my oldest sister, the same one who was now living in Venezuela, to see the previous Khmer Rebbe. And she took my sister there because she felt she was short. And she was ready, I think it was 15 at the time, 14 or 15, and she's coming to an age in a few years where, she wants to get married. Too short. I'm not going to give her bracha to get married. I'm going to give her bracha, she should marry young. She married when she was 18, and she's married now over 42 years. So that bracha definitely worked. For me, he take one look at me, one look at my name, he says, I'm going to give him a bracha to have an appetite. And as you can see from the camera, it worked. Not only did it work, but the doctors had said that if I had weighed 150, 160 pounds or less when I had gone in, I probably wouldn't have survived because I lost so much weight. Who knows what would have happened? I mean, what the side effects would have been from losing so much weight and so quickly. We're talking about almost a pound a day consistently for almost 3 months. So I would have been in big trouble. Who knows what kind of damage could have happened.
So this bracha that you ate more
saved my life.
It saved your life. That's
and not just then. I'm going to tell your audience now something that nobody knows. Almost just about nobody knows. Many years later, we're now talking January 2006.
By the way, I just give me 1 second. I want to pause and tell my audience that, of course, this show is only an hour. That's too bad. And we're approaching on the hour. But make sure to check for the next time when the Moshe Handler show will be on, Handler with Care. And you'll be able to listen to the rest of this interview, which I'm going to continue recording right now. Okay, now continue.
So, 2006, I'm not feeling well. I'm really not feeling well. I go to a doctor. He gives me a strong medication, I guess it was an antibiotic. And I'm on it for a week or so, but I felt internally something's not good. I just felt something was going bad inside me. I tried calling him, left messages with the service, left messages with the nurse. I don't know what. And at that point, I weighed actually then, when this is happening, around 355 pounds I weighed, which is a lot more than I weigh now. As much as I am now, was much more then. And I knew something bad was going to happen. I was really getting nervous. I started calling people up to tell them. I didn't want to tell them this, but what I did was I had them write down my wife's name, my wife at that time, I've been married since then, and my sister's name and phone number in case of emergency. The very last person I spoke to was the same Roseanne Schnoll who had bought the comedian. And she, immediately as soon as I started speaking, saw that there was something wrong. And she asked me, what kind of medication am I taking? I said, I don't know, it's an antibiotic. And she said, do you have the bottle there? I said, yeah, give me the name. I gave the name. She goes, that's a very high dosage. Stop now. Why don't you stop now until the doctor calls? And she was nervous for me because she never heard me speak like this before, ever. And she kept me on the phone. We started talking about 8 o'clock. She hung up around 1 o'clock in the morning.
4 hours on the phone.
5.
5 hours. Wow.
Next morning, she woke me up at 7 o'clock in the morning. I answered the phone. Okay, you're still good. Don't take the medication. Speak to the doctor. Doctor told me, he finally called me a few hours later that day, after a couple days, and he said to me, if I had taken 1 or 2 more pills, I had the wrong dosage. If I had taken 1 or 2 more, my heart would have stopped.
The wrong dosage, as in way over what your dose should
way
have been.
over. Not only that, he said, the only reason your heart didn't stop until now was because your body weight was absorbing it. And it brought me back to that bracha, the original bracha, to have a good appetite. If I had weighed 320 pounds, I wouldn't be speaking to the camera today. I wouldn't be telling you the story. It wasn't a lot of weight difference.
You can't, this noise cannot be. Okay, go ahead.
I wouldn't be talking to you today. If I weighed 30 pounds less, I wouldn't be if I weighed 200 pounds, I wouldn't be talking to you. 250, 300 pounds, I wouldn't be talking to you today.
Right.
So that Rebbe's bracha, when I was 5 years old, still covered me to this day. I actually asked his son a number of years ago about this bracha. I said, how could it be taken away? And he said to me, listen, if my father gave you that bracha, you have to have that bracha.
Do not take it away.
It's yours for keeps.
Do not, absolutely not. Well, you know, on the balance, you're alive.
On the balance, I'm alive.
So you have to look
I won't
at it
be
that
winning
way.
any Mr. America contest anytime soon, probably because I'm too short, but I'm alive now.
Too short, too old, too weak.
Well,
but your smiling is good. Mr. Congeniality, you can win.
This is true.
Okay. Well, that's amazing effect of a bracha that has really saved you more than a few times already. So there is the power of a bracha. It's kind of funny. I remember that I used to talk to Rebbetzin Altusky many times. Every year I used to take her to the airport to go back to Eretz Yisrael. She's the daughter of Rav Chaim Pinchas Scheinberg, and I've always had this quest to take her back. And she's a motivational speaker in Eretz Yisrael. And I remember that she told me, and I think it was an aunt of hers or a grandmother of hers, that they used to be in Europe, in these little towns, every year a certain person would come to collect money. But the way they worked, they didn't just come to collect money. People would come to them, and they would get brachas, and he would give speeches on Shabbos, he'd give shiurim for the whole town to listen to. It was a big excitement when such a person came. And he would usually spend a week in town, and it was a very big thing. Everyone looked forward, and of course, as part of the relationship that he was there, everyone understood that he was collecting money for yeshiva, and everyone would give whatever they could do to the best of their ability. Obviously, you couldn't give everybody everything you had, but you understood to give him. But he always was there for brachas, and this particular Rav, I can't remember his name at the moment, I have to ask my wife, but this particular Rav, his brachas were Mekayim. People knew that he was a great person, and his brachas were Mekayim, and they would line up to get those brachas. I mean, when you know that somebody's giving you a bracha and it's going to happen, you go to get that bracha, you come hell or high water, you're going to be there. So there was a woman who had a daughter who was already about 20 years old, and she was not married. And she wanted a bracha for her daughter, so she brought in her daughter, and she said, Rebbe, you have to give me a bracha that I should have a mazel tov already, you know? There should be a mazel tov. And the Rebbe looked at her and he said, you know what? When I come back next year, by this time, when I'll be back again, there will be a mazel tov. She was very happy about that, you know, because that was about as definite bracha as you can get, you know. So next year, the big Rav comes back, and the woman comes back into the room one more time to to talk to him. This time, her daughter is there still, but there's one extra thing. There's a little baby that was born, about 2 months old. And she said, Rebbe, I asked you for a bracha and you told me that I'm going to have a mazel tov. But can I make this bracha a little bit more specific? What I want is that my daughter should get married. Make sure that I have a bracha for my daughter to get married. That's the bracha that I need. So the Rebbe said, okay, when I come back this time next year, I'm going to give you a bracha that your daughter should be married. And Kachaya, that's how it was. He came back the next year, and the daughter was married. So it's a funny story, but it's a true story. Reb Tusky told this story to both my wife and myself in the car going to the airport. and it's important. There's a lesson to be learned from that story also.
So when you're specific for a bracha.
Be very specific what you're asking for a bracha. If you're asking for a mazel tov and you get a bracha for a mazel tov, you're going to get it. But if you want your daughter to get married, ask specifically, I want my daughter to get married. So that is an important thing. And Steve, we know there's another story, a fantastic story, which since I know you personally, I know all these stories from you, but I think it's important for the chizuk of the audience that they should hear this story as well. And this is a story about your mother during World War II.
My mother and my grandmother.
And your grandmother. So